Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we talk with Diane Rogers, a registered dietitian, author, and director of Sacred Cow, The Case for Better Meat, the movie. She was one of the speakers at this year's Kansas Livestock Association meeting. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, and our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association, and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agriculture news, the Federal Trade Commission recently finalized a consent order settling Tractor Supply Company's acquisition of rival chain Orscheln Farm and Home LLC. Following a public comment period, the FTC determined the acquisition would have harmed competition among farm stores in the Midwest and South. The consent order imposes a number of requirements, including that Tractor Supply divest of some Orscheln stores, as well as the Orscheln corporate office and Missouri distribution center, to Boomgars, an Iowa-based farm store chain, and other stores to Buckeye, another chain with farm stores in Missouri and Illinois. Tractor Supply Company announced it closed the Orscheln's Farm and Home acquisition in October, the deal valued at $320 million. The consent agreement also requires that for a period of 3 years, the companies buying the divested farm stores must obtain prior approval from the FTC before selling any of the Orscheln stores that they have acquired. Well, the current 22-23 U.S. soybean balance sheet remains unchanged for now, as export and crush volumes are in line with current forecasts. Although soybean meal is off the projected start, the same can't be said for soy oil. Abysmal export volumes and commitments have resulted in lower soybean oil export forecasts for the current marketing year, dropping by 200 million pounds to 1.1 million pounds. Total commitments down 90% on December 1. And the EPA released its renewable fuel obligation targets for 2023 through 2025. That included a slight bump in the biomass-based diesel mandate during the first year. The EPA also approved and finalized a pathway for canola oil used in renewable diesel production. As a result, America's soybean and canola oil balance sheets are changed to nearly offset the expected impact of domestic use. Ultimately, soy ending stocks forecast raised to 1.9 billion pounds. And Americans are paying up to 40% more for their veggies than in 2021. Drought, the big reason why. A new report says the increase is due in large part to states that grow fresh produce getting hit with water cuts because of drought and storms destroying some crops as well. For example, Arizona produces 90% of the leafy greens in the U.S., experienced its worst drought in 1,200 years. Water levels in the Colorado River are dramatically low, cutting down the amount of water available to farmers. And no relief is coming for Arizona farmers either, as officials will cut Arizona's water intake from the Colorado River by 21% beginning January 1st. The nation's top agriculture state, California, also getting hurt by severe drought. The biggest increase, 38% jump in the price of fresh and dry vegetables. Stay with us. We'll have more in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And our guest is Diane Rogers, who's a registered dietitian. She spoke at the Kansas Livestock Association about not only consumer trends, but really kind of taking the fight to the people, I guess, if that might be the best way to do it. With your credentials, your credibility, you spoke to the folks here about taking on the fight, that there's so much misinformation out there, and you kind of shared some consumer trends that probably maybe alarm some people.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people certainly in the middle of the country might not be as aware of what's going on the coast or even globally. So I just got back from COP27 in Egypt and saw the anti-livestock movement very strongly represented there. And I've also been to many, many other countries just this year where I've seen some really alarming policies being made that are anti-livestock.
You're the executive director of something you've created called the Global Food Justice Alliance. Now that sounds ominous, but really what it is, all those words mean something.
Exactly, yeah, and I use the word food justice because I'm really pushing back against this idea that eliminating meat is sort of morally superior, and I try to let people know that just because they're uncomfortable about eating meat doesn't mean that they should then make policies that take meat away from food insecure people. That is unethical because it is based on zero evidence that pulling meat away, especially from food insecure people, will make them healthier.
Food insecurity has been one of those things that we have all become aware of because of COVID and now moving forward. But I also think of food insecurity, I think about the Farm Bill, and I think about school nutrition and nutrition for young people. Really concerned if they think that meat should not be a part of a good balanced diet.
Yeah, and programs like Meatless Mondays, which have taken over the New York City public schools, some of their messaging really is quite anti-meat, and those kids take it home with them. And when we look at what foods do kids like to eat, they like mac and cheese, they like chicken nuggets, they like burgers. What happens when they find out that burger patty is the worst part of the meal? They're going to go get a sandwich with no meat in it? I mean, that's ridiculous. And again, there's no evidence to show that pulling meat away from kids is going to improve health outcomes. Plus, we know that the iron, the B12, and the protein in meat are critical for cognitive development in children.
Okay. We were talking with Diane Rogers, registered dietitian, executive director of the Global Food Justice Alliance. We're going to take a break. Maybe some of the things she talks about how to combat some of those things going on. We'll do that and more in just a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
And Diane Rogers, registered dietitian, is joining us. She is executive director of Global Food Justice Alliance. She spoke at the KLA meeting back in December. And so, okay, you left us with a lot for our break. So what are some of the things you shared about how to maybe combat some of this misinformation or just the wild stuff that's going out there? Say you're a livestock producer, you're a rural community. How to share that just kind of with your sphere of influence? What are some of those things that folks can do?
Yeah, so I have some very easy shareable graphics that take each topic one by one. They're sort of I've identified really 10 main reasons people push back against meat, from health through environmental reasons and ethical reasons. I have a meat quick facts guide that people can download. I have, like I said, shareable graphics. So I talk about the water, for example, and why we have to look at blue water versus green water, and how the anti-meat folks will say that cattle use too much water, but we have to look at the moisture in their food being counted as water, and that's not really so fair. So I have all of that stuff easily available and shareable for everyone to use.
Okay. Now, not only do you do dietitian things, you probably consult a lot of different people. You're an author. You also have a movie and maybe a Broadway play, I don't know. But it's Sacred Cow. Now, maybe some of us have heard about that, but
How can they learn more about this fight, and why did you come up with that title, and what did you want to see accomplished with all that?
Yeah, so I really set out just to make a movie pushing back against the anti-meat narrative. It started as a book project, just because I saw so many people talking about, what should the future of our food system look like, and pretty much the mainstream people who are out there talking about the future of food talk about how we have to eat less meat or no meat in order to be healthier, in order to be more sustainable. And I actually disagree, nutritionally and environmentally, that reducing livestock numbers is actually the solution. So I started writing a book called Sacred Cow. While I was writing that book, yet another vegan documentary had come out. They were showing it in my kids' public school in their science class, as if it was actually science. And so I thought, well, I have to make a film now. So I didn't have any filmmaking background, but I just decided it needed to be done in order to reach more young people. So that's one of my main goals through my film, which people can find on Amazon along with the book, and then also through TikTok, through Instagram, Facebook, on Twitter. I mean, we're all over social media with all kinds of pro-livestock messages, talking about nutrition, environment, and ethics. And then through the Global Food Justice Alliance, we actually get meat to food insecure people, and I am able to speak worldwide to policymakers and other livestock producers in other countries.
Okay, very good. So again, it's the Global Food Justice Alliance. Is that maybe the best thing to do is just Google you and find out all those different things?
Yep, they can join my fight. They can support the work that I do. I'm the only nonprofit out there that's actually advocating for meat and livestock in our food system, and I would appreciate anyone's help.
All right, very good.
Thanks.
Diane Rogers, who is the Executive Director of the Global Food Justice Alliance. She spoke at the KLA meeting on kind of fighting back against some of these goofy things going on when it comes to meat consumption. So stay with us. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
Did you know Kansas farmers grow the largest sorghum crop in the United States? Sorghum is a sustainable and profitable crop for Kansas farmers. It is drought tolerant and thrives off natural resources. And the sorghum stubble saves moisture and provides farmers' livestock with valuable feedstuff while also creating habitat and food that attracts wild game to your farm. Sorghum is growing in popularity as an exciting gluten-free and non-GMO ingredient in a variety of consumer and pet food applications. Sorghum is also an essential component in ethanol biofuel production. Kansas Grain Sorghum Producers Association is the voice for Kansas sorghum farmers and a partner for change with conservation organizations. We defend the Ogallala Aquifer, support sound policy, and educate producers on proper management. Working together, the Kansas Grain Sorghum Organization delivers effective advocacy, research, education, and promotion to help build producer value. Our family farmers work hard to supply the needs of customers locally and around the world, from Topeka to Washington and Asia to California. Kansas farmers invest in a better future by working to expand both exports and domestic market development thanks to the sorghum checkoff. Join us to ensure grain sorghum continues to exist as a viable crop in the future. Go to kansasgrainsorghum.org for more information and check out our podcast for the latest industry news. Kansas Sorghum. Growers working together.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
We have a corn and soybean operation. We farm about 4,500 acres with my mom and my dad and my wife and my family. Farming's been in our family, in my mom's side and my dad's side, for generations. 5, I think I'm 5th. I graduated from K-State in 2001 and came back to the farm full-time after that, but my sister and I were able to start through an FFA project in 1994, I believe. With a quarter with my grandmother and my dad and my sister and me. And so that was the very first time we were able to start farming on the ground. And we have a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 8.5-year-old, and 10.5-year-old. And they love the farm. They like to They like to get out and ride in the combines, tractors. They like to learn. They like to garden. And the garden is where they first started it, and that's where my wife Danielle has really got them kind of get into it, to where we actually even planted sweet corn by hand. They've taken a lot away from that to learn a lot just by getting their hands dirty. But they're involved. They understand, and they ask questions a lot. Oh, my family. Danielle is my wife. She helps on the grain cart and food and family and moving people around. And my mom is the same. She runs grain cart, combine. They can all jump in and out of anything. We have 3 full-time employees, half the year, 2 full-time, all the time. So we have Kent, Noah, Houston, and me and Dad are around full-time. Dad's in the summertime, kind of gets away a little bit more. Harvest, planting, he's there all the time, as well as I'm there pretty much all the time too. So we have basically 5 full-time employees all year round. We farm about 50% corn and 50% soybeans. We've primarily been more so corn in the past, but kind of gotten back, depending on how the markets react to prices, of how many acres of each we farm. The biggest thing is that I like is that, you get to see the work you put in and see how it turns out. But honestly, it's been in our family for years, and that's been pretty important to me and my family.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
The Kansas Association of Wheat Growers, KAWG, applauds Representative Tracy Mann, who joined his colleagues in introducing the Supporting Market Access to Reinvigorate Trade Act of 2022, SMART Act, which would double funding for USDA's Market Access Program and Foreign Market Development Program. Both programs are critical to expanding global market access for U.S.-produced agricultural exports. A recent econometric study conducted by agricultural economists at IHS Markit and Texas A&M University predicted that doubling funding for these programs would generate an additional $44.4 billion in U.S. agricultural exports over the 2024 to 2029 time period. This would directly benefit farmers, livestock producers, dairy operators, and small businesses as they work to maintain and expand their global presence. Reinvestment in export promotion programs is needed now. USDA is forecasting a U.S. agricultural trade deficit in 2023 for the first time in years because the growth in American farm exports is not keeping pace with imports, signaling a more competitive global landscape than we've experienced before, said Robbie Minnick, Director of Washington Operations of the National Cotton Council and chair of the Coalition to Promote U.S. Agricultural Exports. With so much uncertainty about the future of U.S. global trade policy amidst geopolitical conflict, this additional investment is an essential piece of trade promotion policy that our farmers can utilize to reinforce our competitive standing in overseas markets. The legislation must now be considered within the Agricultural Committee, and KAWG urges the committee to swiftly consider and pass this important bill.
Kenneth Allen Campbell Jr.'s passion for agriculture is evident in his community as he supports and educates youth and consumers. Campbell is noted by friends and family as a servant leader and can often be found behind the scenes of an event, leading by example. He is passionate about food insecurity issues and impacting young leaders in agriculture through mentoring. According to those that know him, Campbell is truly a pillar of the agricultural community. Congratulations.
applied for this opportunity because I wanted to improve my ability to communicate with those that are so far removed from agriculture. And after having had these experiences this past year, I feel more confident and more empowered to do so.
I've had the opportunity to be a part of some really neat leadership programs, and this one by far exceeds them all.
Prior to starting Leadership KFB, I just wanted more. I wanted to know more about Kansas agriculture. I wanted to know more about the people of Kansas. I wanted to know more about myself.
I've been in production ag my entire life, grew up in a farming family, been an ag lender for 13 years. I want to know more about where our products go, who does that, and how it nourishes and affects people across the country and the world. I definitely got that with Leadership Kansas Farm Bureau.
Leadership is an activity, not a position. Not only is this one of my favorite quotes from Leadership KFB, I believe it embodies some of the program's fundamental values.
You know, the other thing is they challenge your way of thinking. You know, I feel like in agriculture we get stuck in a rut so often. You know, and they challenge you to think outside the box.
I really would encourage anyone that's interested to apply for it. There's certainly no age limit on it, and we'd be happy to have everyone in there. I think it's a great opportunity for any type of person interested in leadership and a great experience to have.
I look forward to setting an example for my kids of what it looks like to serve among others who may have differing opinions, but we all strive for a prosperous community.
Leadership KFB kind of restored my sense of optimism for the future of agriculture.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
The National Cattlemen's Beef Association has been working with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration for months to allow additional time on the road for truckers transporting livestock and make them exempt from some hours of service rules. The livestock industry will retain the 150-mile air radius exemption on the front and back of a shipment, but the federal agency has denied the hours of service request, which puts producers at a real disadvantage. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration rejected the exemption, saying it wouldn't meet an acceptable safety level for drivers. However, it doesn't take into consideration the well-being of the animals being transported and will put a burden on producers. Kent Backus, NCBA Executive Director of Government Affairs, explained that producers being allowed to operate with the extended relief for the last few years has provided the flexibility necessary to ensure the health and safety of the livestock being hauled. He said NCBA will continue to look at any possible legal or congressional recourse on this issue. The organization also will continue to petition the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to reconsider or compromise.
The 2022 County Innovation Award winner for service is Mitchell County Farm Bureau. The county board supports the Summer Kids Cafe, an organization dedicated to feeding local youth. 5 years ago, the County Farm Bureau began to incorporate agriculture into the program by providing food and a chance for the kids to interact with farmers and farming equipment. The kids also learn responsibility, accountability, and manners. The county board includes individuals passionate about ending food insecurity and are sharing the Kansas Farm Bureau mission of advocacy, education, and service in their community. Nearly 60% of cafe attendees are food insecure, and during the summer of 2022, the county served more than 9,000 meals. Mitchell County is building a firm foundation for local youth by taking a local need and helping address it in a creative and impactful way.
Good day. I'm Derek Hermish with Pinion, a division of KCO ISOM. Volatile grain markets are the new normal, it seems. The good thing about true volatility is that it creates much more opportunity than flat markets. However, your opportunity to experience regret is much greater as well. For example, say you sell your soybeans on a 50-cent rally only to watch it go up another $1 the next week after you sell. Can you be happy about selling into the initial rally, or are you going to focus on what you missed out on? Regret should be the least of your concerns when it comes to marketing, but it can rear its ugly head in these environments and negatively affect decisions down the road. Selling your grain at profitable levels is the key. That's what you're always told, but it's never that simple. It is true that you will not go broke selling for a profit, but you're not in the business of making widgets for $1 and selling them for $2. Volatile markets provide opportunity, but they also provide opportunity cost. If you make a decision that nets you 50 cents less on average for your grain than your fellow neighboring farmers, nobody is going to offer you a discount on fertilizer or seed or equipment repairs to help you make up for it. Quite the opposite, as we've seen recently with inputs going higher. There are options, literally, that can be very useful in volatile markets. Yes, I am referring to puts and calls. I know there are many of you out there that are not fans of options. I talk to you quite frequently, and sometimes I agree with you. But in my experience, this is the environment to utilize them. If you'd like to visit with us about it, give us a call at 888-452-8751. I'm Derek Hermish. Have a good day.
That's our show this week. Be social with us at KansasAgReport.net or our other social media channels. I'm Ken Rogers. Catch me on the radio all across the state of Kansas every day on the Ag Network. We'll see you back here next week for another Kansas Ag Report. Thanks for watching.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.